My name is Marcus Hale, and I learned that revenge is best served quietly. I boarded a red-eye flight to Los Angeles without telling a soul, imagining the look on my daughter's face when I walked through her front door. But instead of a joyful reunion, I would soon find her fighting for her life in a sterile ICU room, while her husband was miles away, laughing on a yacht, burning through my hard-earned money on champagne and strangers. The rage that began brewing inside me that day would change everything. Within hours, I would strip him of everything he thought made him powerful, and that night, he would lose his mind. But this was just the first domino to fall. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from right now. The seatbelt light pinged as the plane began its descent into LAX. My hands shook slightly as I pulled out my phone and typed, "Landing in 20 minutes. Can't wait to see you." My thumb hovered over the send button. It felt like a promise I was finally ready to keep. 3 years had passed since I'd last seen my daughter. 3 years too long. The photograph in my wallet had grown soft at the edges, worn from the number of times I'd stared at it on sleepless nights. Elise was laughing in her kitchen, flour dusting her dark curls, while Noah grinned proudly, missing his front tooth, and little Sophie clutched a crayon drawing she was eager to show me. I'd stared at that picture every day since Evelyn, my wife, had passed. But today felt different. Today, I wasn't just remembering them. I was taking action. Folks, we're now on final approach into Los Angeles International Airport. The captain's voice crackled. My weathered fingers gripped the armrests as a familiar surge of anticipation rushed through me. The last time I had surprised anyone was Evelyn's 50th birthday party, 5 years ago. Back then, my world had still been whole. Grief had since hollowed me out, made me a stranger even to my own daughter. But her voice from our last phone call wouldn't leave my head. "I'm just tired, Dad. Really tired." She'd said it softly, almost like a confession. It had gnawed at me for weeks, haunting me through long nights and empty dinners. I stood silently at the baggage carousel, watching strangers reunite with hugs and tears. A young mother knelt to scoop up her toddler. An elderly couple clung to their son. Soon, that would be me and Elise, except she didn't know I was coming. Studio City, I told the Uber driver as I climbed into the back seat, holding up the address on my phone. Going to surprise my daughter. He grinned in the rearview mirror. "Surprise visits are good for the soul," he said in lightly accented English. "My family back in Guatemala, they love when I just show up." Big smiles, big hugs. The freeway stretched out under the afternoon sun, palm trees swaying like sentinels on either side. LA looked the same as it had 3 years ago. Sprawling, sun-soaked and full of possibility. Elise had always chased bigger things, brighter lights, ever since she was little. Evelyn used to say she got that daring streak from me, back when I still believed in taking risks. I almost called her twice on the drive, but stopped myself both times, thumb frozen over her contact. No, this would be better face to face. The look on her face would be worth the aching back and the 4-hour flight. The driver finally pulled up to a quiet street, lined with blooming jacarandas. "Here we are," he said, nodding toward a quaint house with white shutters and a neatly kept garden. I paid him, grabbed my bag, and stood still for a moment, breathing in the warm California air. My heart was pounding as I walked toward the door, mentally rehearsing what I'd say. Maybe I'd joke about how her old man finally figured out online booking. Or maybe I'd just stand there with open arms and let her run into them like she did when she was 8. I reached into my bag and carefully pulled out the small gift I'd brought, a hand-carved wooden jewelry box I'd made in my garage. Inside it was her grandmother's ring. I wanted her to have it, to keep it safe, until Sophie was old enough to wear it. Was old enough. Evelyn would have loved to see that ring passed down, loved to see Elise smile the way she used to before the world weighed her down. My finger hovered over the doorbell for a moment longer, as if I could pause time and stay suspended in that perfect hope. 3 years of missed birthdays, of phone calls cut short, and promises postponed, were about to be washed away in an instant. I finally pressed the button and heard the familiar chime echo inside the house. Silence. I pressed it again, holding it longer this time, listening to the metallic ring reverberate through what sounded like an empty home. "Elise, it's Dad," I called, knocking firmly on the doorframe. Maybe they were in the backyard. Maybe the kids were playing upstairs with the music turned up too loud to hear me. But no footsteps came. No shouts of surprise. The silence pressed down on me, heavy and wrong. I stepped back and took a harder look at the house, really looked this time. The rose bush by the front window had browned at the edges, petals scattered like pale confetti along the walkway. Elise used to send me photos of those roses every spring, proud of how perfectly they bloomed. A strange unease crawled across my skin. I circled to the side gate and peered through the wooden slats. The backyard was eerily still. Patio furniture sat beneath a layer of dust. The vegetable garden Elise had once tended with such pride was nothing but shriveled stalks. A small tricycle lay tipped over near the back door, one plastic wheel spinning lazily in the warm breeze. Something's not right, I muttered to myself, walking back to the porch. The mailbox was stuffed full, envelopes bulging, packages half buried under a pile of advertising flyers. I bent to pick one up. Electricity bills from 3 weeks ago. A thick envelope from the bank. A package addressed to Gary, left baking in the sun so long the cardboard had faded. The most recent postmark I could find was dated 10 days ago. My pulse quickened. The engineer in me clicked into problem-solving mode. When a system stops running, there's always a reason. Something had interrupted the flow of life here. I pressed my face to the living room window, cupping my hands to shield out the glare. Darkness. Curtains drawn tight. No flicker of a television. No sound of children playing or dishes clinking in the kitchen. It didn't look like anyone had been home in days, maybe weeks. And yet the familiar shapes inside were still there. Elise's easel propped in the corner, Sophie's art supplies on the coffee table, Noah's toy cars scattered across the rug like frozen evidence of a life abruptly paused. "Excuse me," a voice said, behind me. I spun around. An elderly woman in a wide-brimmed sun hat stood at the edge of the lawn, garden shears glinting in her gloved hand. "Are you looking for the Harpers?" she asked gently. "Yes," I said, stepping toward her. "I'm Daniel Harper. Elise is my daughter. Have you seen them lately?" She frowned, dabbing her forehead with the back of her wrist. "Come to think of it, no. Been awfully quiet next door. Usually I hear the kids laughing in the mornings, but..." She trailed off, studying my face with growing unease. "Is everything all right?" "I'm sure it is," I lied, forcing a smile that even I didn't believe. "Probably just a vacation. Maybe they're visiting family." But the words rang hollow. Elise would have told me if they were leaving town. And Gary was addicted to social media. He posted photos of everything, from what he had for breakfast to his golf score. There hadn't been a single update in weeks. As the neighbor retreated back to her roses, I sank heavily onto the front step, the wooden jewelry box clenched in my hands. Something was wrong, deeply, frighteningly wrong, and the pieces weren't fitting together. I pulled out my phone and opened Elise's Facebook page, scrolling through with a mounting sense of dread. Her last post was 6 weeks old. A picture of Sophie's school art project taped proudly to the fridge. Before that, nothing for nearly 2 months. Elise, who used to flood my feed with photos of Sunday dinners, the kids' soccer games, and even new coffee shops she'd tried, had gone completely silent. The afternoon shadows were stretching across the neighborhood, long and uneasy. I sat frozen on that porch step, staring at the house that had once been so full of life. Somewhere down the block, a lawnmower growled to life, its hum cruelly ordinary against the drumbeat of fear in my chest. A jogger passed, earbuds in, utterly oblivious to the man unraveling 2 steps away. I searched for a spare key under the welcome mat, then along the rim of the flower pot. Nothing. The door handle turned uselessly in my grip. Locked. "Of course. All right, Daniel," I muttered to myself, trying to steady my breath. "There's a reason for this. There's always a reason." But the longer I sat there, the more that rational voice faded, replaced by a gnawing certainty that this wasn't just an empty house. Something had gone very, very wrong. I thumbed my phone, hovering over Elise's contact. Then I pressed it. 1 ring, 2, 3. Straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Elise. Leave a message, and I'll call you back as soon as I can." Her recorded voice was so cheerful, so normal, that it hurt. I hung up, and immediately called again. Voicemail. A third time, I let it ring until it stopped, determined to leave a message if nothing else, and then a voice answered. "Hello." It wasn't Elise. The voice was male, calm but professional. "Elise, this is Dad. I'm in LA. I wanted to surprise you, but, sir, the voice interrupted. This is Dr. Rivera from Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Are you a family member of Elise Harper? The world tilted sideways. Yes, I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. I'm her father. Where is she? Why do you have her phone? A pause. Long enough for my chest to tighten like a vise. Mr. Harper, I'm very sorry to inform you that your daughter is currently in our intensive care unit. She's been undergoing treatment for advanced cancer. Her condition is critical. The words hit like a physical blow. Cancer. Critical. No, I croaked, gripping the porch railing with my free hand. No, that's impossible. I just spoke to her 3 months ago. She was fine. She just said she was tired from running after the kids. Stage 4 cancer can advance quickly. Dr. Rivera said gently. Many patients don't share their diagnosis immediately. Your daughter has been under our care for several weeks now. Several weeks. The unkempt garden. The silent house. The overflowing mailbox. The picture came together with brutal clarity. Where is Gary? I demanded, my voice shaking. Her husband. Where are my grandchildren? I'm sorry, Mr. Harper. Dr. Rivera said after a pause. I can't speak to other family members' whereabouts. But I strongly recommend you come to the hospital immediately. Elise has been asking for you. I nearly dropped the phone. What's the address? I managed, the words scraping out of my throat. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. 8700 Beverly Boulevard. Ask for the Oncology Intensive Care Unit when you arrive. And then the line went dead. I sat there for a long moment, the afternoon sun glaring down, mocking me with its warmth. Evelyn's ring clattered from the jewelry box onto the porch steps. Sophie was supposed to wear it someday. But what if there wasn't going to be a someday? I stood so fast the world spun, stumbling toward the street with one thought screaming through my head. I needed to get to that hospital. Now, a yellow cab slowed as I waved frantically. Cedars-Sinai, I said, shoving the crumpled address toward the driver with trembling hands. Traffic's heavy, he warned, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Doesn't matter, just go. Please. My daughter. My throat closed around the word. She's dying. The door shut with a thud that sounded like it was sealing off my old life. LA traffic crawled in front of us, a cruel joke. Through the window, the city buzzed with its usual rhythm. People buying groceries, walking dogs, living their unbroken lives. And I sat in the back seat with my world collapsing inward. I pulled out the photograph from my wallet, my thumb tracing Elise's laughing face. Just tired, Dad, she'd said. Just tired. How could I have been so blind? The cab lurched forward, throwing me against the seat, and memories came flooding back unbidden. Elise wobbling toward me on her first steps, her triumphant grin when she learned to ride a bike, her wedding day just 2 years ago. Gary shaking my hand and promising, I'll take care of her. Where was he now? Why hadn't he called me when she got sick? I dialed his number again. Voicemail. Gary, I said, through clenched teeth. I'm in LA. Elise is in the hospital, and you'd better call me back immediately. The message felt far too calm for the storm building inside me. My daughter was fighting for her life, and her husband was nowhere to be found. Faster, I told the driver, my voice low, dangerous. She's young, he asked softly. 38, I said. 2 kids, he shook his head. Too young, he murmured, pushing harder on the gas. By the time the hospital came into view, its glass and steel reflecting the purple haze of early evening, I felt like I had aged 10 years on that ride. The driver's voice was gentle. Good luck with your daughter. I shoved cash into his hand with fingers that wouldn't stop trembling, grabbed my overnight bag, and stepped out onto the sidewalk. The hospital loomed above me, glass gleaming in the dying light, impossibly calm for what awaited inside. The automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss, swallowing me into a lobby that was too bright, too cheerful. Modern art installations splashed color across the walls, mocking me with their forced optimism. At the information desk I managed, Oncology Intensive Care, Elise Harper. The receptionist's face softened. She handed me a clipboard and a badge. Sign in, 7th floor. Take the elevator on your left. My hand shook so badly I could barely write my name. The elevator climbed, each floor lighting up like a countdown to catastrophe. When the doors opened, The antiseptic tang hit me like a wall. Bleach, medicine, fear. Dr. Rivera was waiting at the nurse's station, compact, wire-rimmed glasses, catching the harsh fluorescent light. "Mr. Harper," he said, extending a steady hand. "I'm glad you made it. How is she?" The question rasped out of me. "Stable for now," he said, voice calm but grave. "She's weaker than we'd hoped at this stage, but she's been asking for you." We walked past open rooms, filled with machines, beeping softly, families whispering prayers, nurses adjusting drips. I caught glimpses of other battles being fought, a husband clasping his wife's hand, a mother reading to a child with no hair. "Room 712, Dr. Rivera said quietly. "Prepare yourself. Physically she's very changed, but mentally, she's still Elise." Nothing could have prepared me. She was so small, propped against starched pillows, IV lines trailing from her arms, monitors tracing her heart's fragile rhythm in green spikes. But when she saw me, her whole face lit up. "Dad." It was barely a whisper, but it hit like a freight train. I crossed the room in 3 steps, folding her carefully into my arms, terrified I might break her. "I'm here," I whispered, tears finally spilling. "I'm not going anywhere." She leaned against me like she used to as a child. "I didn't want to worry you, you were still grieving Mom, and I thought I could handle it." I tucked the blanket around her shoulders the way I used to when she was little. "We could have faced this together, Elise. Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "They told me 6 months. I thought I'd get better, that I'd call you with good news, not this." I gripped her cold hands. "We still fight, do you hear me? We fight until the last round." But even as I said it, I was already thinking of Gary. "Where is he?" Her face shifted, subtle but telling. "Business meetings. He said he'd be back before the weekend." "When did you last see him?" 3 days ago." She said it too softly, like she was ashamed of the answer. "He's been distant since the diagnosis," she admitted. "I think it scares him." My jaw clenched. "Has he been helping, with the kids, with you?" "Emma watches the kids during the day. Gary handles things." But the way she said it, as if reciting a line she didn't quite believe, told me everything I needed to know. I stayed with her for an hour, holding her hand while she drifted in and out of restless sleep. Each time she opened her eyes, they found mine instantly, like she needed to make sure I hadn't vanished. When she finally slept deeply, I stood and moved to the window, the city lights flickering below like distant stars. It was time to try Gary again. I called. 1 ring, voicemail, again, and again. My patience snapped. I typed, "Your wife is in ICU, call me now, 5 minutes. Nothing. That's when I saw Elise's phone charging on the bedside table. I glanced at her sleeping form, then picked it up. Gary's number was in her recent calls, no call from him in 2 days. 2 days since he'd bothered to check in. I called him again, this time from Elise's phone, straight to voicemail. And then the screen lit up with an Instagram notification. His story had a new post. I tapped it, and froze. A yacht gleaming white in the California sun, champagne glasses clinking, a manicured hand holding a flute. The timestamp said 2 hours ago. Swipe. Gary's grinning face appeared, arm around 2 men I didn't recognize, sunglasses flashing, the Pacific glittering behind him. Living my best life with the boys, my blood ran hot. Swipe after swipe, Gary laughing, drinking, diving off the yacht into blue water, looking like he hadn't thought about a hospital room in his life. The last video made my stomach turn. To getting away from reality. Gary shouted, raising his glass. Reality. My daughter's tubes and monitors, her shaved head, her dying body. I took screenshots of everything, fingers moving automatically, almost detached. The engineer in me woke up, document everything, build the case. When I was done, I sent one last message. I see you. Your wife is dying. Call me. We need to talk. Still nothing. I paced the room, quiet so Elise wouldn't wake, but my rage was an electrical current under my skin. Then the question hit me, how was he paying for all of this? The yacht, the champagne, the luxury dinners. Gary was good at his job, but he wasn't this good. And then I remembered, a year ago he'd asked me for access to my backup savings account, just until things stabilized. My gut twisted as I opened my banking app. The transactions loaded one by one, Marina del Rey yacht charter, $15,000, yesterday. Nobu Malibu, $850, 3 days ago. Beverly Hills Mercedes service, $2,400. Rodeo Drive shopping, $3,200. Luxury spending stretching back months, all while my daughter was getting poisoned by chemo. I screenshot every transaction. Every charge became a piece of ammunition. Then I opened my notebook and began writing, account numbers, transaction IDs, a precise plan forming in my head. Step 1, cut him off completely. Step 2, make him answer for every single thing. The bank's emergency line picked up after 3 rings. This is Daniel Harper. I need to revoke authorized access on all accounts, immediately. Within minutes, Gary's access was gone, his cards canceled, his automatic payments stopped. His life, the one he'd built on my money, was now bleeding out financially. I stared at the confirmation emails stacking up on my screen, each one a hammer strike. Let's see how long his yacht party lasts, when the bartender tells him his cards declined. And this was just the beginning. I snapped the notebook shut with a crisp, deliberate motion and slid it into my pocket along with my phone. The engineer in me had done its job. Identify the fault, isolate it, cut it from the system. Gary's access to my money now existed only as a memory, and soon even that would feel like a cruel joke to him. For the first time in hours, I stood a little straighter. Not because the weight of Matilda's cancer had lessened, that weight would crush me until she either recovered or the unthinkable happened. But the sick, gnawing truth that I'd been funding her abandonment had been excised. Gary could toast his hollow victory tonight. Tomorrow, when the cards declined and the yacht staff demanded payment, he would understand what happens when a parasite is ripped from its host. The hospital's night rhythm had settled into its eerie cadence as I moved toward the elevators. Muffled voices, shoes squeaking on linoleum, the distant whir of machines. I passed the chapel door, barely ajar, then the nurses' station, where tired faces cycled through shift changes. Somewhere between floors, I allowed myself a single controlled breath before stepping back into Matilda's room. She was awake, staring at the ceiling, her face pale but oddly calm. The soft green glow of monitors bathed the room in a fragile sort of light, making everything outside feel impossibly far away. "Hey, sweetheart," I said gently, setting my untouched coffee aside and dragging the chair closer. "Better now that you're back." She turned her head, and something in her expression had changed. Heavier, resolved. "Dad," she whispered. "I need to tell you something about Gary." I took her hand, still ice cold despite the heated room. "Take your time, honey. I'm here." She stared at the blanket. "He changed after Jack was born. Said I wasn't contributing enough. The freelance jobs were harder with a newborn screaming all night. He started calling me a burden." I clenched my fist beneath the blanket, my jaw tight, but kept my voice soft. "A burden? You were raising 2 children." Her lips trembled. "When the bills started piling up, he said I was ruining his future. That he'd married a partner, not a patient. When I got the diagnosis, he just shut down. Stayed out late, stopped looking at me. I thought if I got better fast enough, if I didn't complain, maybe he'd come back. Be the father Emma and Jack need." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "But he's not coming back, is he, Dad?" I brushed the damp hair from her forehead, the same way I had when thunderstorms scared her as a little girl. "Sweetheart, you are exactly who you should be. Any man who can't see that doesn't deserve you." Her grip tightened weakly. "I feel so stupid, defending him to you all these years, making excuses when he never visited, never called you back. You were right about him." I swallowed hard. I was wrong about one thing. I thought he loved you, even if I didn't like him. But I never imagined he'd leave you to fight this alone. She turned her head toward the window. "The worst part is Emma asking where her daddy is. How do I tell a 6-year-old that her father chose a yacht over her mom's life?" A nurse entered quietly to check vitals, mercifully breaking the moment. When we were alone again, I leaned closer. "You don't need to worry about him anymore. Focus on fighting. Everything else, Gary, money, custody, leave that to me." "You can't." "You're not asking me, Matilda. I'm telling you, you won't ever have to face him alone again." Her lashes fluttered, exhaustion, pulling her toward sleep. "Promise me one thing," she murmured. "Anything. Don't let him turn you into something dark. I need my dad, not another angry man." I kissed her forehead. "I promise," I said softly. But I wasn't sure it was a promise I could keep. Some betrayals demanded more than forgiveness, they demanded consequences. My phone buzzed in my pocket, unknown number, Marina del Rey area code. I glanced at Matilda, already asleep, and stepped quietly toward the window. "Hello," my voice was ice. "Harley, what the hell did you do?" Gary's voice cracked, panic barely hidden under the party noise behind him. "My cards just got declined, in front of everyone. Fix this, right now." "Where are you?" I asked, calm as a scalpel. "That's none of your business, just, you're going to listen to me very carefully." I cut in, my voice low and dangerous. "My daughter is in ICU, Gary. Fighting for her life, and you're partying on a yacht I paid for." Silence, then sputtering. How did you even?" This was business networking. $15,000, Gary. My $15,000, while Matilda was hooked to machines. "You can't just cut me off. I have rights. I'm her husband. You were her husband." My voice was so quiet, it felt like the room itself leaned in to hear it. Behind me, I heard Matilda stir. Awake now, listening. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under." "The pressure," I hissed. "The pressure of living on my money, while abandoning your family." His tone hardened, calculating. "Restore my access or I'll file for divorce and take the kids. I'll make sure Matilda loses everything." That was the last threat he would ever make. "Gary," I said softly, deadly calm. Even over the music I heard him hesitate. "You just made the biggest mistake of your miserable life." Matilda's breath caught behind me. She'd heard everything now. Heard the real Gary. "I know where you are," I continued. "I know what you've been doing. I know exactly how much you've stolen from me, while my daughter fights to stay alive. And now I know the kind of man who would weaponize her children against her. You can't do this to me." "Oh," I said, my voice razor sharp, "I haven't even started. I have a reputation to maintain." "People are watching," Gary hissed. "Yes, they are watching," I said, my voice like cold steel. "They're watching you get your cards declined. They're watching a parasite get cut off from his host." Gary's voice cracked. "Harley, wait. Please, let's talk about this like adults. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. I'll come to the hospital right now." I looked at Matilda, tears streaked her face, not of grief, but of release. For the first time, she saw her husband for what he truly was, and her father for what he had always been. "No, Gary," I said, quiet, but absolute. "We can't fix this." The line went silent, except for Gary's ragged breathing. In the background, his world was collapsing. Engines cut, music killed, voices arguing about payment. The party was over, literally and figuratively. "Harley, please, just let me explain." I crossed the room and sat beside Matilda, her cold fingers lacing into mine, clinging like a lifeline. "You chose this," I said into the phone, each word deliberate, measured. "You chose a yacht over your dying wife. You chose champagne over your children. You chose my money over your family's future." My voice dropped to a near whisper, sharper than any shout. "You made your choice. Now live with the consequences. I can change. I'll come home. I'll take care of everyone. If you ever come near my daughter or grandchildren again," I said, my tone calm, lethal, "I will end you. Financially, legally, publicly. Everyone will know exactly what you are. You can't do this. I'm her husband. You abandoned your wife when she needed you most. You stole from me to fund your escape. You threatened to take her children as leverage." I let the words hang, heavy as judgment. What judge, what jury, what friend would stand with you now? There was a sound on the other end, something breaking. His voice. "Maybe. I have nowhere to go. My friends are gone. The yacht company is threatening to call the cops. Please, just a little money to get home." "You had 6 months of chances," I said, my voice quiet but final. 6 months of nights you could have been here. 6 months of days you could have held her hand. And every single one, you chose yourself." Matilda was crying openly now, but they were tears that washed something away. 20 years of excuses dissolved with every word I spoke. "Harley, I'm begging you, no." The word landed like a hammer. Final. Unmovable. "You're done, Gary. Done with my money. Done with this family. Done hurting anyone I love. But I don't have anywhere to." I hung up. The action was as clean and final as a guillotine. Then I blocked his number, severing the last thread between us. Matilda's grip tightened. I brought her hand to my lips, kissing her knuckles, the way I had when she was a little girl, afraid of the dark. "Thank you, Daddy," she whispered. "You never have to thank me for protecting you," I said softly. "That's what fathers do." She clutched my hand like she was holding on to life itself. I was so afraid to leave him. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of admitting I made a mistake. "You're not alone," I told her, brushing her hair from her forehead. "And this was never your mistake. It was his. Every selfish choice, every cruel word, every time he put himself first, that was on him, not you." For the first time since I'd landed in Los Angeles, Matilda smiled. A real smile. One that wasn't hiding pain or fear. "Get some rest," I said softly, brushing her hair from her face. "Tomorrow we start planning your future. One where no one ever gets to hurt you again." She closed her eyes. Her breathing evened out, deeper, calmer, lighter. The machines beside her beeped in their steady rhythm, counting heartbeats, counting seconds, counting the beginning of a new life. Outside the window, Los Angeles glittered in its usual indifference. But inside room 712, something had shifted. Justice had been served, and healing had finally begun. 1 year later, Texas, 2025 sunlight poured through the kitchen windows of our new house, turning the hardwood floor into a mosaic of gold, where Emma's art supplies were scattered in colorful chaos. From the backyard came the sound of children's laughter. High, bright, alive, the soundtrack of a house finally free of shadows. Matilda stood at the counter, a knife flashing in the light as she chopped vegetables with practiced rhythm. Her hair had grown back thick and glossy, framing a face that glowed with health and something rarer. Peace. The haunted look is gone, I thought, leaning against the doorway. The woman I raised is back. "Dad, you're lurking again." She teased without looking up, and the familiar sound of her playful tone almost undid me. "Just appreciating the view," I said. "Still can't believe you're really here." Through the window, I caught sight of Jack showing Emma how to throw a perfect spiral. My football lessons passed down to another generation. At 8 and 6, they'd adapted with a resilience only children seem to possess. Safe now, truly safe. The divorce had been swift and merciless. Gary's threats about custody evaporated the moment his attorney saw the evidence. The calls, the bank statements, the months of absence, in family court, his name became synonymous with abandonment. "Grandpa," Emma's voice carried through the screen door. "Come, show Jack how to catch better." "In a minute." I called back, turning to Matilda. "How are you feeling today?" "Really feeling." She set down the knife and faced me. I saw in her eyes what the doctors had confirmed months ago, complete remission. "I feel like myself again," she said, smiling. "Maybe even better than myself. Stronger." The oven timer chimed. She pulled a pan of cornbread from the oven, my late wife Martha's recipe, passed down and perfected. Some traditions deserve to survive everything. "Remember what you used to tell me when I was little and scared of storms?" she asked, setting the pan to cool. "That storms pass, but families last forever." "You were right," she said, hugging me fiercely, closing the space that fear and pain had once carved between us. "I'd never said I told you so about Gary. I never would." The restraining order and the silence where he used to be were loud enough. "Dad," Emma scored a touchdown. Jack burst through the screen door, grass-stained and grinning. Emma was right behind him, performing a victory dance that would have made her grandmother laugh out loud. "That calls for extra cornbread," Matilda announced, slicing generous squares that steamed in the afternoon light. As evening settled over the Texas sky, the four of us sat on the front porch swing, Martha's swing, salvaged from the old house and rebuilt here. Emma dozed against my shoulder while Jack pointed at the stars that blinked awake overhead. "Tell us the story again," Emma mumbled sleepily. "About how you saved Mom." "Sweetheart," I said, brushing her hair back, "your mom saved herself. I just cleared the path." "Like the bad man who went away?" "Yes," I said quietly. "Like the bad man who went away?" Matilda reached across the swing and took my hand. The quiet, unshakable kind of thank you we'd traded since that night. The kind of bond you don't get from easy years, the kind forged only in fire. This, I thought, as the warm Texas night wrapped around us, is what winning looks like. Not Gary's tearful begging. Not the moment I cut him off for good. Winning was this, an ordinary Tuesday night, kids laughing, no betrayals lurking in the dark, no battles left to fight except over vegetables. Above us, the constellations appeared one by one, the same stars Martha and I used to watch from this very swing, when Matilda was the age Emma is now. Some things change. Marriages end. People fail you. Illness tests everything you thought you knew. But some things endure, the bond between father and daughter, the resilience of children, the fierce, quiet joy of protecting what matters most. Tomorrow, Matilda would design something beautiful. The kids would run wild in the yard. I'd tend the garden, Martha always wanted, maybe start building Emma's dollhouse. Normal life. The kind worth fighting for. Tonight though, we sat together under a Texas sky so wide it seemed to promise nothing could touch us again. 3 generations, scarred but standing, finally safe, finally home.